And there you have it, completely adjustable. And that is the beauty of something like this. This is everything you're going to need. I'm using double take mirrors because the lifetime warranty, the quality, everything you see here is linked in the description with Amazon Japan affiliate links and international affiliate links that will work in the USA and most of Europe, just like most of my videos. They don't cost you anything extra. Using those links is the only thing making this channel profitable. So please, do all the things and use these links if this seems like a good idea for you. But with that, if you've got any questions about anything on the bike, I will link a playlist with every modification on the bike. Some things aren't out yet, but it will all be in that playlist eventually. So these are the normal double take mirrors. I'm not gonna keep them. I've made a video, which you can see also linked in the description, about why I prefer bar end mirrors. You don't have to agree with me, but if you don't, then you probably didn't click on this video. So here's the new mirror, and it's gonna go, I think, with this bolt right here. I want this on the outside just because it's one less thing to bump my hand. So the reason I want the mirror right here is just outside of the way of this handguard. And if you can see, it's not really any wider than the double take mirror was originally. I have a cheap version of double take that's like this. I would say double take's the better one to go with, but I don't know your budget. Both are linked in the description. The one reason I want it here, these handguards come with this plastic guard, so there's already a hole. The more holes you drill, the weaker it gets. I don't think it's enough to make a huge difference for my kind of riding, but let's just stick with the holes that we already have and just make the one a little bit bigger. If you don't already have one, or you don't have a curve like I do, right here is probably the smarter spot. So I'm gonna measure them real quick and tell you what those measurements are for the two spots. The distance between the handguard bolt and the mirror, exactly 102 millimeters. The spot I found before is 75 millimeters. The further forward you go, the better it is because you get a better field of view. And also, if you have this type with the curve, the point of it is when you're holding the bars, if you slip in, you can fall out. So the further back you come, the more stuff there is to get your hand caught on. If you've got the straight kind, don't think about it. Not that this has saved me much yet, but it's just something to consider, because again, this is a safety first thing, and with everything at your own risk, because every change changes the safety. And that's what it's gonna look like once it's mounted up, roughly. I have a video of all the protection parts I did. I'm gonna leave the plastic on when I drill, because the new bolt has to fit through. These are M5s. We're going up to M6s, so it shouldn't be that big a difference, but that's also why we have a tap. If you don't have this plastic guard, doing the bolts from the inside out is better, because nothing's sticking out over here, if I ever hit these hard enough to break them. But coming from the inside out, what I've linked is 25 millimeter long bolts. You're gonna wanna drop that down to 15, so it just barely pops out the edge. And if you're doing that, you will want Loctite. If you're doing it the way I'm doing it, I'm not using Loctite, and there is a reason. This is a 5 millimeter. This is just gonna clear the threads. If you're starting your own holes, start with a 2 millimeter or even a 1 and work your way up. Don't ever start with the biggest one. It's easier to start a small hole and work from there. No turning back now. Now we're trying to tap an M6, so you don't want to use a 6 millimeter hole, otherwise you can't tap it. So I'm going to try to tap it straight from what we've just done and not go any bigger. That worked perfectly. A 5 millimeter drill bit and M6 by 1 tap. And yes, if you don't have a tap set, I did also link a tap set in the description. I'm going with these button head bolts because it's one less thing to get caught on when you hit the ground. If, for example, you hit a rotted log, and so far, up here, button head bolts have not been a problem. This is a stainless steel bolt, and it is going into aluminum. Even though it is really high quality forged aluminum, it is just aluminum. So tight, but not intensely tight. And it doesn't need to be intensely tight, as you'll see in a minute. Now we're gonna mount it, and it's all gonna be loose, so don't lose too much sleep over getting it perfect just yet. The important thing to show you is this black washer. It's aluminum, but it is an M6 to an M10 spacer. These are originally designed to go into this M10 mount right here, but we're not doing that, and I couldn't find M6 versions, and I looked for hours. So this spacer. I couldn't find a washer like this for the International link, so I just gave you simple spacers that'll go in here, and as long as you get it tight enough that it's not moving around and falling off, it will be good enough. So the spacer end goes in the hole. It's just aluminum. Not that I don't trust aluminum, because this is aluminum, everything's aluminum, just to be safe. Everything's stacked. And now you can see this is a lock nut, so we don't need Loctite. And now we're going just until it's snug. Let's try it with the mirror and get it exactly where we want everything. Right about there is pretty darn near perfect. And there's still space for my hand to get out. Yes, that's something that could get caught, but that's why it's always at your own risk. Now, the pressure's going in and out and it's going against this. So just this one lock nut, you're locking and you're locking on both sides. Allen wrench back in place. Let's get the mirror out of the way because I have big hands. This is not moving for the life of me, and I like to think myself a relatively strong person. All right, let's get the mirror back on. This is the part where adjusting the mirror is personal preference. Do you want this in or out? Yes, the clutch works. Now I plan to make a shorty clutch lever soon because my quick shifter might be working again, but the clutch still works. That's what's important. Some people like it way out to the side like this. Personally, I don't. I like to lane filter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this back in position, which is why I didn't take it off yet. Right there's good. And then let's just match them up. So that's about the right spot. You have to ride the bike to get it perfectly right. And tighten this down, not hugely. So up and down looks nice, forward and back, be it a percent of a percent of a percent. But this forward and back right here is slightly more aero streamline. And I have these big flexible winter guards that I use just to keep the wind off when I'm riding, and I have the heated grips. But spring is coming. It's gonna be in the upper teens, almost 20 degrees Celsius this coming week, so small guards are soon to be. So one thing I forgot to talk about is that, again, these are infinitely adjustable, but I just moved this one as close as possible. I'll get off the bike and show you, but there's still plenty of room for my hand. This one is much closer to a normal bar end mirror where it's almost mounting right here. It's now extremely low like I talked about. Sorry I didn't think of this yesterday. I slept good last night after 70 hours of work this recent week. And that's probably a bit closer than I want because it's almost defeating the purpose of this bend, but this bend is giving it space to sit. But also the whole thing rotates. So you can spin it inward, and now it's barely sticking out past the bars, even with this part. It's still not really in the way of your hand, just slightly. And that way, you really can get it exactly where you want. And the reason I'm pointing this out, even though it's obvious, one size fits all in my experience has been one size fits some. Whereas this one, you really do have all the adjustment you want. Do you want this to be a way out there mirror to get the ultimate field of view? Do you want this to be up front? You really get the mirror you want. Or do you want it way up forward and you don't mind seeing a bit of the handguard in the plastic? Or if you have smaller handguards, when I had the handguard up here, if I fall off road, it'll smash into this. And this is very flexible, so I don't think it matters. Tight enough to stay in place, loose enough to just bang in place. Part of the indestructibility is, here's probably the new weakest point, this bolt and right here. But if it just twists super easy, there's your indestructibility. Just my personal preference. I might actually get rid of this and just put a nut on it because I don't need to loosen and tighten it much, but once it's in the position I want, I'll do a tighten turn all the way to even with the momentum. Now, regular standard mirror. First, we're gonna take it off completely. You have, at this point, two options. You can keep something like this because people love to have RAM mounts everywhere because you gotta mount 700 things to your handlebars, or you can pull this off and just put a cap, which is also linked in the description. This one could do with Loctite. These are stainless steel. You can get them properly tight. And I'm just gonna throw my phone up here to see that it's in the same angle it always is. There we go. That It's tight enough for my confidence of not stripping out the bolt. And just a quick little thing about these original mirrors. If you're in Japan and you think these were actually better, go to my Instagram and send me a private message. Maybe I'm willing to part with these for a very fair used price. I've already got a crash video you can check out. These can definitely handle an 80-kilometer slide on the pavement. Your mileage may vary. Some people use oil when they're running a tap. It's aluminum, and this is a quality tap, so I don't personally see the need. Just remember, go slow. Don't overheat the tap. See this corner right here? Last time that matched up perfectly with this beam, so if I just keep it there, we have ourselves an answer. Tightness right here, getting this in and out. You could use sockets, but I just felt like the wrenches were the smart choice. Same as last time, just tighten it on. You see right here, brake just barely hits. We can just move the brake lever in a bit. If you do move your brakes that far, make sure you're not pinching these wires. Mine's close. That's about 1 or 2 millimeters of clearance. So normally at this point, I would take this one off and do the same thing with the mirror cap here, but instead, I'm gonna leave this one on, pull this off real quick, and ride around the neighborhood so you guys can decide, do you like the normal position or do you like the bar end position that I just created? But I want you to make the right decision. But till then, bye-bye. All right, we're out on the streets, and on the left we have the bar end that I just did, and on the right we have a woman on a Harley. On the left we have the bar end we just set up, and on the right we have, what the f are you doing? We are back out on the streets. On the left, we have the bar end we just set up. On the right, we have the standard position. So which one do you feel better about? I think you can see the van behind me in both pretty well. And here's a car cutting across all lanes to turn in the non-turning lane. Make no mistake, Japan's still a country full of people, and the taxis still drive like taxis. But to focus on the mirrors, if you want my personal opinion, and I guess you do, you're watching my video, but 2 big advantages to the bar end mirror. In a crash or something, there's nothing to hit my hand on if I'm flipping over the bars. Not that I flip over the bars all that often. The other is just the field of view. I can see the mirrors with the same little glance because this is a pretty big bar end mirror. It is the minimum legal size in Japan of just over 10 centimeters. I can see just as well at a quick glance out of either mirror, but what I don't have is all of this scaffolding in the corner of my eye. Because as you can see in the camera, this arm is always right in the corner of my eye. So for me, aesthetically, I have more of that flying feeling over here. There's nothing obstructing the view. And obviously I removed my windshield. I've removed tons of stuff in my weight loss series for the bike. I'm working on the weight loss series for the rider. And I guess technically this is saving that much weight. And one question you have to ask yourself, is this my turn or do I just not want to wait at a red light? But as far as the aesthetics, hello officer. Hello. He smiled. But as far as the aesthetics go of the field of view, and not to say which one's more physically attractive, that's up to you, but the field of view, I'm a YouTuber, so it's not just what I want to see. What does it look like for you, the viewer? Does this scaffolding look better for you, or does this open space look better for you? The mirror is a necessary tool for merging and for seeing what's behind me, and to figure out if that cop was angry, and is he chasing me? He's not. Oh, and real quick, because I guess just one person's gonna be out there asking, what's the difference with the look standing up? You can't see your mirrors when you're standing up. Lane filtering, I'm not worried. But if you are worried, you can always just fold the mirror in, lane filter away, and then pop it back out. So obviously now I can't see through that mirror, but I could lane filter and just pop it back, and there's the world behind me again. Right where I left it. Behind! That's at least 5 millimeters of space. And a much easier smash out of the way. At this point in the video, someone's definitely angrily commenting, "He's just making it up as it goes." To which I say, yes, of course I am. This time I'm putting the nut on the inside. This is not the OEM bolt. I just had a stainless bolt laying around and I'm gonna cut it short. Here's the OEM bolt, but if you use a regular nut with Loctite, it doesn't stick out at all. If you're doing what I'm doing, tight enough that it's not gonna come loose on its own from vibration, loose enough that it still moves around very easily. Because now, on-the-fly adjustments have become a bit harder. It is a perfect fit. It doesn't work with the big winter guards, but spring is here. I might have 2-3 cold rides left like this. I can still see barely any elbow and have just as much view as before. And the curve is back to having a meaning if I fall in and fall out. This is barely any more obtrusive than the plastic guard itself. Now, because this is an already shortened bolt, I am gonna cut it even smoother so there's nothing to hook my glove on, even though this bolt, and all the OEM bolts still stick inside just that little bit. You, the viewer, do not have to do this step. Also, you, the viewer, don't have to do any of these steps. The entire point of DIY is to do it how you want it. Cutting it by hand, it's easier to not overcut. It's 7 a.m. and some of my neighbors are sleeping, so let's not use a metal grinder. Also, this $5–10 saw is a lot cheaper than a quality angle grinder. So sticking to the DIY idea, you all can do something like this. Perfectly smooth, no sharp edge to get caught on. For those of you that don't want to cut, look for a bolt that's exactly 38 millimeters, no shorter. If you're willing to cut or don't mind a little sticking out, I'll link a 40 millimeter bolt in. If you got a 40 millimeter bolt and not cut it, it would be this long. So you can of course stick to the original idea and have this poke out this side, no need to cut. But if we're being weight weenies, here's at least 5 grams. But cutting is all of 5 minutes twice. But as far as the lock nuts and washers, it's the same nut from the kit down here, the same washer from the kit down here, if you don't want to trust the plastic that came with it. But it's plastic, 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 so why not a little more lightweight plastic that came free with it? But other than one more bolt, there's nothing to buy here. I'm gonna stick to cutting because I don't want to buy more bolts. But again, I'll link that below, and I'll link the saw below if you want a cheap saw just to get it done, if you are the cut type. And I guess right there's a problem. If you're too close to the handguard, you can't use this. But if it's on the inside, again, another chance to hit your hand. There is a spring in the middle here. I don't know how much you actually need it if you're using a bolt that doesn't need to ever come out. For the path of least resistance, a significantly longer bolt is easier to get everything started rather than pinching it in place if you're already cutting it, which I am, but I already had cut bolts, so why ruin good bolts? And of course, if you're the let's go for it, no regrets, I know what I'm doing type, just use the OEM bolt and don't buy another bolt. I never loosen to the point I want. I loosen, and then I just tighten a bit. I've been told that helps a bit. I have no reason to believe that's true, but I do it anyways. And with a nylock nut, don't loosen and tighten too many times. That's not good for the nylock. Because this is now going up and down like this, it's actually a more flush fit. It's a better fit, it's a stronger fit. Not that the previous wasn't strong. I did about 200 kilometers with it as it was, and there's the brake making no contact at all. Just remember, if you're cutting, you want the nut exactly where you want it, where you never have to touch it again. Because it's going to be very difficult to adjust. You can make it tighter, but making it looser, you've now cut off all the extra. This is what it looks like, adjusted in position. This is right at eye level, so that's what checking the mirrors looks like. All right, so that's it. Till next time, I'll see you around. Thank you again for following along. Thank you again for helping out the channel with liking, subscribing, and affiliate links. Bye-bye. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Nope, that's not gonna work. I know quite a few people that actually just don't like the plastic at all. It's actually too low now, so it's really not that different. To get it high enough to not see the bar, nope, definitely not that. We'll just stick with what we did before.